Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. You may be coming over here after you just watched my 27-week bump date. If you are, the background looks quite familiar. However, I did put a new shirt on because I think that it distinguishes between the videos. So anyway, today's video is going to be my second trimester recap. I can't believe I'm already in the third trimester. This is insane. This is going by super fast, and I feel like she's gonna be here before we know it. So I do have notes week by week. There are a few weeks that I have notes missing from, so I will kind of just briefly touch on like what may have happened that week, but I don't have notes for like a few of the weeks. So we're gonna start all the way back at 14 weeks pregnant, which is the first week out of your first trimester and into your second trimester. So if you guys have not yet watched my first trimester summary, make sure to watch that because that tells you everything that I experienced in the first trimester, which was really a good time. Spoiler alert, it was horrible. So it's gonna make a lot of sense watching that one first and then watching this one because it's just gonna make a lot of sense. So anyway, if you did already watch that, or if you don't feel like watching that, here's my second trimester recap. So, starting at 14 weeks, I was still experiencing nausea, but not horribly. Whoa, I don't know what word that was. Not horribly, and I was starting to feel better because overall things were just starting to look up. I was starting to have some lower back pain in my 14 weeks. And hip pain. And that's all I have for 14 weeks because 14 weeks was pretty uneventful. I felt pretty good. At 15 weeks pregnant, we found out the gender. We found out we were having a little girl. And I wrote down that I was still nauseous and but that my energy was coming back. So I was able to do more things and like get more things done around the house and like go out more, and just that things were starting to really look up. So that was it for 15 weeks. At 16 weeks, I felt my first movements. They were very small, but it was when I was laying down and I could feel little teeny tiny flutters, nothing crazy. At 16 weeks is when it just kind of started, and now that I know what her movements feel like, I know that that was definitely what I was feeling. I wrote that my appetite came back at 16 weeks. My appetite was back because, again, if you didn't watch my first trimester recap, I had no appetite for the first like between 14 and 15 weeks of my pregnancy. I didn't really eat anything. I lost 10 pounds. It was a lot. I also wrote that my back pain was pretty severe at 16 weeks, and my sciatica was too. That I was shortness of breath, which never went away. It just kind of started at 16 weeks, and then, yeah, it never went away after that. I also wrote that my nausea was starting to calm down, which didn't last very long. At 17 weeks pregnant, I was nauseous again. So I also remember that was when I started to taper off my medication, so that could have had something to do with it. But yeah, that was really disappointing and kind of discouraging. I was also starting to get super tired again at 17 weeks, which didn't last very long because I got my energy back like the next week. So it might have just been like, I don't know, but I was pretty tired at 17 weeks. I also wrote down that I was starting to get super itchy at 17 weeks. I was experiencing itchy skin on my boobs and my stomach and like all those wonderful places. Another thing was I was experiencing round ligament pain. So I'm sure those of you who have had children or know anything about pregnancy know that round ligament pain is a thing, and it is fun. It is super painful, and but that didn't last too long. except I do feel like pelvic pain now. I'm actually 27 weeks pregnant currently, but I do feel it again. But it's not that it ever really went away, it's just that it calms down at certain points. And then 18 weeks, I wrote that I was feeling tons of movement. So this is when she really started to move, and I started to really feel her moving, and Brennan could start to feel her move a little bit. And I also wrote that the nausea was gone again. So I don't have 19 weeks. That was 18 weeks, but I don't have 19 weeks. I have 20 weeks though. So at 20 weeks, I was experiencing slight nausea, slight fatigue. So as you can see, there's kind of a pattern. The nausea comes and goes with each week. But it was never as bad as my first trimester, and still to this day, it's never been as bad as my first trimester. So that nausea really ended at about 14 weeks. That horrible first trimester sickness and nausea. I also wrote at 20 weeks that I was having sleep issues, so I still am because it's quite uncomfortable to sleep on any part of my body at this point because I'm just sore all over. So 20 weeks I was experiencing sleep issues. I also wrote that my skin was still itchy. I wrote that this is like a big one. I wrote that I was starting to get emotional. So starting at about 20 weeks, I was starting to feel quite sensitive, and this has only gotten worse. I just feel kind of hormonal and emotional, and I cry very easily, and it's just, that kind of started at 20 weeks, but it never went away. I also wrote that I was experiencing back and hip problems still. Again, something that just never really went away. It kind of started at, what did I say, 14 weeks, I think? Yeah, the back and hip problems started at about 14 weeks, and they just never really went away. So that's a thing. And then I wrote, baby was moving a lot. So that was 20 weeks. 21 weeks, I wrote that I was still super emotional. I was getting sick in the morning again. So see, it's like every other week. It's kind of weird. And that I was starting to have pregnancy brain, which is a real thing, believe me. Back pain, I was starting to write, I wrote that I think that's what that says. I spelled it really weird. But I was writing that my boobs are starting to get really sore again, and that my belly was getting sore. And little did I know I was going to go through a pretty big growth spurt, like right after, right at 22 weeks. So writing down in 21 weeks that I was experiencing all these things is, makes sense now. I wrote that I was having trouble getting comfortable in bed, which is still a thing, like I said. That I was craving carbonated drinks. So I was craving like fizzy water and soda and things like that. So that was just a little fun fact for 21 weeks pregnant. At 22 weeks pregnant, and at 20 weeks, back up a little bit, 20 weeks, I did have my anatomy scan, and it came back perfect. She is just a perfect little angel. She, I've had a very uneventful pregnancy as far as her. She's just been growing exactly how she's supposed to be, and everything in there is growing how it's supposed to be. So she's made my life very easy. Well, very easy as far as not having to worry about her. At 22 weeks, oh, she's kicking me. Oh, child. At 22 weeks, I was starting to feel very tired again. So between 18 and 22 weeks, I was having a lot of energy, and then all of a sudden it went back down. I really wish you could see what my dog is doing right now. I wrote that my feet were starting to hurt when I was standing up for too long, which is still a thing. I was feeling bigger. I was getting very full after eating, which is still a thing. I noticed my first stretch mark on my boob, which that seems to be the only one I've gotten so far. I haven't gotten any of my belly so far, and then that's the only one that I've noticed. And then at 22 weeks is when I was first able to start seeing my belly moving. So I was starting to see her actually like moving inside my stomach, which was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. I didn't know it started that early. I thought you had to be like 9 months pregnant to see your belly like moving. So when I was seeing that at 22 weeks, I did my best to catch it on camera, and I did. So if you go check out my 22-week bump date, you will see that short little clip that I got of her moving around. Bella, really? So, on to 23 weeks pregnant. I was very easily tired, so that's when that started, I guess. I was starting to get lightheaded, and if you watched my 27-week bump date, you'll know that I am going to be getting tested for iron deficiency anemia, because I get a feeling that that's what this is. I also wrote that I was having acid reflux and heartburn. I feel like this started earlier, but maybe not. Maybe it did start at 23 weeks. Yeah, so that was a thing. I still have really, really, really bad heartburn. If I could say that any symptom is like number one, that's my number one thing, is I have horrible heartburn. I also, at 23 weeks, began to experience Braxton Hicks contractions. I still get them every once in a while, but I checked with my doctor and everything is fine and baby looks fine, but they, yeah, they definitely were a little scary at first. And I also wrote that I was having insomnia and that after I ate, I felt super full. So that's kind of been a trend. And then I don't have anything for 24, 25, or 26 weeks, but I can kind of sum it up with just a few words. I feel pregnant. That's it. Those are the main words. I don't really have any new symptoms between 24 and 26 weeks at all. The only thing that's new is I'm having horrible rib pain now, and my hunger is back, because at 23 weeks, I don't think I wrote that down, but my hunger did diminish a little bit, and I noticed that like my appetite was not as big, but my appetite is definitely back. So that is my second trimester recap. I think that overall I had a decently better second trimester than my first. It still wasn't the most comfortable. I'm just not one of those people that had like a super easy pregnancy that was like, oh yeah, like, you know, my back kind of is sore a little bit. No, I have like a decently difficult pregnancy, I would say. Just feeling very uncomfortable pretty much the whole time, whether it was with nausea or with something hurting or something like that. So that is it though. Make sure, if you didn't watch it already, you go watch my 27-week bump date, because it will answer all of the 27-week symptoms that I am experiencing. And yeah, so I'm gonna go and get myself something to eat because I am starving, and I'm gonna go edit these videos to make sure that I get them up for you guys. If you do want to see my belly, you'll have to go check out my 27-week bump date, because I did do a belly shot and I feel like I popped this week. So thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, because I post 2 videos a week. I don't have days anymore because I was doing horribly at sticking to those days, but I am doing my best to post 2 videos a week and get those up for you guys as quickly as possible. So again, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.